guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Miracle. Mimi for short. If this is the first time seeing my beautiful face, you're welcome. So our next video is from Thomas Sowell, and it says the hidden truth behind the end of slavery. Wow. Let's check this video out.
Slavery was destroyed within the United States at staggering costs in blood and treasure, but the struggle was over within a few ghastly years of warfare. Nevertheless, the Civil War was the bloodiest war ever fought in the Western Hemisphere, and more Americans were killed in that war than in any other war in the country's history. But this was a highly atypical, indeed unique, way to end slavery. In most of the rest of the world, unremitting efforts to destroy the institution of slavery went on for more than a century, on 1,000 shifting fronts, and in the face of determined and ingenious efforts to continue the trade in human beings. Within the British Empire, the abolition of slavery was accompanied by the payment of compensation to slave owners for what was legally the confiscation of their property. This cost the British government £20 million, a huge sum in the 19th century, about 5% of the nation's annual output. A similar plan to have the federal government of the United States buy up the slaves and then set them free was proposed in Congress, but was never implemented. The costs of emancipating the millions of slaves in the United States would have been more than half the annual national output, but still less than the economic costs of the Civil War. Quite aside from the cost in blood and lives, and a legacy of lasting bitterness in the South, growing out of its defeat and the widespread destruction it suffered during that conflict. While the British could simply abolish slavery in their Western Hemisphere colonies, they faced a more daunting and longer-lasting task of patrolling the Atlantic off the coast of Africa, in order to prevent slave ships of various nationalities from continuing to supply slaves illegally. Even during the Napoleonic Wars, Britain continued to keep some of its warships on patrol off West Africa. Moreover, such patrols likewise tried to interdict the shipments of slaves from East Africa through the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf. Brazil capitulated to British demands that it end its slave trade after being publicly humiliated by British warships that seized and destroyed slave ships within Brazil's own waters. In 1873, 2 British cruisers appeared off the coast of Zanzibar and threatened to blockade the island unless the slave market there shut down. It was shut down. It would be hard to think of any other crusade pursued so relentlessly for so long by any nation at such mounting costs without any economic or other tangible benefit to itself. These costs included bribes paid to Spain and Portugal to get their cooperation with the effort to stop the international slave trade, and the costs of maintaining naval patrols and of resettling freed slaves, not to mention dangerous frictions with France and the United States, among other countries. Captains of British warships who detained vessels suspected of carrying slaves were legally liable if those vessels turned out to have no slaves on board. The human costs were also large. The heavy drain, physical and mental, in keeping squadrons on the East African coast was reflected in the loss of 282 officers and men in the 10 years 1875 to 1885. And this did not include those invalidated home.
Wow, guys. So the British really played a huge role in this. Oh, I didn't really not have no idea. These brave men who fought. Wow, like they fought so hard to destroy slavery. They deserve every bit of respect, like every little bit of your respect. I salute to the British gents. Seriously, wow. I really had no idea.
Ships of the Royal Navy in the Atlantic. Nevertheless, the dogged persistence of the British eventually reduced the shipment of slaves across the Atlantic and across the waters of the Islamic world. Although the French flag was for many years widely used as protection from the boarding of ships on the high seas by the British Navy, even by slave traders who were neither French nor authorized to fly the French flag, Eventually, France itself turned against slavery, outlawed the institution, and sent some of its own warships to patrol the Atlantic off the coast of Africa to intercept and deter the shipment of slaves to the Western Hemisphere. The American flag was likewise so used, and the United States, like France, eventually turned against the slave trade and sent warships to join the Atlantic patrols to interdict slave shipments. Although by 1860 the Atlantic slave trade had been effectively stopped, the slave trade from East Africa across the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf took longer to be reduced significantly. Off the east coast of Africa, smaller Arab vessels called dhows hugged the coastlines in waters too shallow for the British warships to enter. One British commodore estimated that he captured one dhow for every 8 that escaped. Nevertheless, during the period from 1866 to 1869, 129 slave vessels were captured.
Wow, guys, I think the credit of stopping slavery is for the British alone and not for the West. Like seriously, like God, I'm just so happy to come across this piece of this clip from Thomas Sowell, because this is just educating, it's making me to know things more, it's opening my brain, opening my eyes to see things and how things were in those days. I hope my black brothers and sisters that are out there will watch this clip, even if it's not from my own clip, we go to Thomas Sowell TV to watch this clip, to be educated, to know things about the slavery, and should stop like going up and down, slavery this, slavery that, like, and preparation of the and the rest of them.
Vast expanse of water in this region. British warships would often launch smaller boats to engage the Arab slave dhows. In these cases, as one study put it, the slave traffickers frequently did not hesitate to attack boat crews in defense of their profits. Battles between the Arabs' vessels and the smaller British craft were especially likely when the larger ships that launched them were too far away to reach the scene in time to join the battle. In other cases, the Arabs fled even from the smaller British vessels. An episode in 1866 was typical. On 26 April 1866, the Penguin set out after a dhow and fired several shots in an effort to make the crew come to. When the dhow failed to lower its sail, Gartorth felt certain that she was a slaver and ceased firing for the sake of the slaves on board. However, he managed to close with the dhow, which then made for the rocks through a heavy surf. By the time the ship's boats could be lowered to follow, the Arab crew had fled, but the pounding surf made any attempt by the slavers to salvage the human cargo too dangerous. To their horror, the boat crew found that they too could not reach the dhow, which was rapidly filling with water, drowning the slaves. The boat officer decided that he could not risk coming in close to the dhow, but several of the crewmen of the cutter recklessly dived in and swam through the surf to the dhow. In a remarkable display of courage, the sailors managed to bring 28 of the slaves back to the boat. But the dhow appeared to have had more than 200 slaves on board, and most died in the pounding waves. In another episode, the Arabs' ruthlessness toward the slaves was further
Wow,
revealed.
like now I really know why most people are against reparation. Even me too, I'm against reparation for the people who never have been slave in their lifetime or in their parents' lifetime. Did you know the depth, the pain? Did you know the fight, the fought then? Did you know the things they did then? Did you know the amount of debt some of those governments are still owing up to now? Wow, like I didn't really know that the British and the Arab country fought so hard. And do you know that the Arab country was the last to let go? Like they were the last people to let go of slavery. And so, and I think I am 100% sure that slavery is still going on around the Arab countries. Yes, guys. Black people, I wish, in short, not only the black, I wish everybody's eyes will open to see this thing and learn. Reparation this, slavery that, oh, generational trauma this. Stand up. Now is not the time to be wallowing in the past. We're in the present. Stand up, walk, do things for yourself and not wallow in slavery and everything. I know it wasn't easy then, but now our people fought for it. Our people fought for the future, which is now. for the future of their life, their children and children to come for to stop all this slavery. Because if you were to go back in those days of slavery, hey Jesus, if you were to go back to the days of slavery, okay now, I really lack words to just say now, but if you were to go back to the days of slavery,
Vessels and the smaller British craft were especially likely when the larger ships that launched them were too far away to reach the scene in time to join the battle. In other cases, the Arabs fled even from the smaller British vessels. An episode in 1866
yeah,
was
and I wonder
typical.
why the Arab nations fought so hard to maintain slavery. Why the British also fought hard to end it. It's almost the opposite of what is happening in of what is happening today or of today's message. Seriously. And what, guys, like, respect for the British for fighting against slavery itself and not just making it illegal in their borders. Kudos to them. Wow. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Like, watch, and subscribe to my channel and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye bye.